Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer, part of the product marketing team here at Akeneo. And for this panel, we will be focusing on new ways to work. And over the past few years, we've all experienced a lot of new ways to work during the pandemic. But in addition, technology is always changing and advancing and creating better ways that we can do our jobs. And so today, I'm very excited to have Josh Williams from Petra Industries and Penny Raft from Fossil with us to discuss how they are embracing new ways to work. So Josh, before you started working with Akeneo, could you tell us a little bit about what your product enrichment process looked like?
Sure, thank you. So I think probably helps to understand a little bit about kind of the history of the company and how we came to Akeneo. So Petra is a distributor, and we've been a consumer electronics distributor for almost 40 years at this point. And historically, we had gone to market through a catalog. So what we did was create a 1,200-page catalog. We sent that out twice a year. And then we also had multiple mailings throughout the year of smaller flyers, smaller catalogs, that sort of thing. And we were selling primarily to independent retail storefronts, so like a Radio Shack store or a storefront that was owned and operated by like a single owner, so small retail. And our whole product process was built around this. Our whole content acquisition process was built around, what do we need to get product data for our catalogs that we're producing. And you really don't need a lot of information. You don't need a lot of rich information like you'll have on an e-commerce website. So we would have a product title, we'd have a handful of bullets, we would have a category, price, inventory, logistic information that we need to ship it, but that was about it. And so once we started transitioning into selling online, we were trying to map that process that we already had onto selling on our own website. And this became a sort of a clunky process. One, we didn't really have any of the information that we needed to be properly selling online. And we were also starting to kind of bifurcate our information. So within our e-com platform, we kept trying to add on more there. So we had a categorization there that wasn't present in our marketing database. We had extra bullets, extra descriptions, those kind of things that were existing in our e-com platform, but not with any of our marketing, our databases. And then we had other groups, sales groups that were also having pieces of the product information. And it was just getting very fragmented. We had people chasing down multiple, the same attribute from multiple sources, that sort of thing. And then kind of on top of that, as a distributor, we're working with hundreds of brands. So we're bringing in all this information from, like I said, hundreds of brands. We're trying to keep it all straight, keep it all together. And it was really getting just really fragmented between all of these sources. And so that was kind of the state we were at once we started really looking into how do we solve this with a PIM.
I have a couple more questions for you. So you had some issues with the comprehensiveness of your product data. And can you tell us a little bit more about what some of those issues were before the PIM?
Yeah, so the issues, really, we kind of ended up with two tracks of issues here. Like the first issue was selling on our own website, which I was mentioning before, like we just didn't have the data we needed there. But through this process, we were also starting to sell a lot more online through just major retail online. So like Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's and all these like large retailers, we're setting up products there for our vendors or for our brands. And these retailers all were having much more strict requirements around the sort of data they wanted from us. They wanted, the really specific attribute information so that they could, better sell the product to their own customers. So the issue we started running into there is we had multiple teams. So we had like a like a Walmart team and a Lowe's team and Home Depot team, that sort of thing. And they would be setting up the same product on each of these sites, and they would need the same information. They wouldn't have it. So each team would start to independently go out and try to find this information. They would go back to like our brands, and sometimes that brand would get the same question like 3 times in one day from like 3 different of our teams. And that's it's inefficient for us. It's annoying for them because they're like, well, I've already given this to you twice today. Why do you keep asking me for this? It's like, well, we have to solve this. We can't keep duplicating the effort. We can't keep kind of annoying the brands we're working with. And if we're going to go to market as quickly as possible, like we need this information up front, and we need it stored in a structured, central, easy place that our teams can retrieve that information from. So.
Thank you. So now that you've talked about some of the processes you had in place and the challenges managing all of the data, can you tell us how your product information has evolved now that you're using Akeneo PIM?
Sure. So we've been on Akeneo since 2016. So we were an early adopter of the platform, and really our process has kind of evolved along with Akeneo in a way. So what we did when we onboarded the PIM, like we wanted to make sure that we were investing in this PIM, and we wanted to make sure that we were treating it as sort of a first-class citizen within our ecosystem. Like we're in the business of selling products. Like product information should be is vital to us, and we need to make sure that we're treating it that way. So we started with the idea that the PIM was going to be our central point of product information. So product creation happens for us in the PIM, not in our ERP. So Akeneo controls that life cycle for us. We still have information in our ERP. There's data flow back and forth because there are bits of the product information that do have to live in the ERP. For like pricing, inventory, some things like that live in our ERP. But anything product content-wise, anything else lives in Akeneo, is controlled by Akeneo. And so we started with that. This is our central source of truth for every bit of information that we know about a product. And then from there, integrated that into our ecosystem so that we had flows out to our website. We had flows out to all of the different tools that we're using. Second to that, and probably maybe even more important, is the people process side of it. I talked about that how we had a duplication of effort of the same people trying to find the same bit of information. So as we were onboarding the PIM, we also created what we call our PIM team. And our PIM team is responsible for onboarding product information and finding these product specifications ahead of time during the onboarding process, so that ideally, once we get ready to actually list these products on sites, we have that information at hand and ready to go. But if we don't, they're also the point of contact with our vendors. So if one of our teams says, oh, I need this piece of information, it's not in Akeneo, like, go find it. So that'll go out to our PIM team, and then our PIM team will reach out to the vendor. They'll put that information into Akeneo, and then it'll be available to the other teams that might need it down the road. So we tried to streamline that process by creating that team, and that team has been really vital, I think, to making our PIM work. They also handle our categorization. They're constantly looking to make sure that we have the right product families, that we have all the right attributes. Since they're seeing all the attribute requests that do come from each one of our different accounts, they get an idea like, well, we have 6 accounts that have requested this attribute, and we don't have it in our PIM. So we probably need to add that one and then start fulfilling that as part of our onboarding process. So having that team with that insight across all the accounts has been really beneficial to us. And so, yeah, I think that was one of the biggest changes. I think that team was critical, and that's how we approached that. And then we have 2 other teams along with that we sort of repurposed. We had a product content team that had traditionally been responsible for our catalog primarily, and we transitioned that into the team that creates all of our marketing content, our titles, our bullets, descriptions for PIM. And so while the product onboarding team is finding specifications, we have our content team who is also working on all of the copy and the bullets at the same time, so that we're getting the product enriched as quickly as we can. And then we have a third team we call our media team that is responsible for all of the the photos and the videos, and they're also working at the same time to get all that information loaded into Akeneo so that as quickly as possible, we'll have an enriched product record with specifications, with content, with bullets, with images and videos that we can then start to syndicate out to all the retailers we support as well as our own website. So.
Well, thank you. That sounds like quite a process. I really liked what you were saying about treating the PIM like a first-class citizen, and it sounds like you've realigned your teams to support that initiative. Did you get any pushback in the beginning, when you were talking about we need to treat the PIM like a first-class citizen?
Kind of yes, and we didn't necessarily get pushback on the concept. There were a lot of challenges to it that different groups brought up that we had not, in some cases, fully considered. There were definitely some stakeholders in the company that we should have brought into this process sooner than we did. So the pushback wasn't so much, oh, we shouldn't do this. It's like we didn't properly prepare in a few areas where we could, do it efficiently. But we overcame that, and we were able to overcome that. And then from a C-suite perspective, we had it was a complete buy-in from the start. Our leadership was pushing for it. They're like, we're investing in this PIM, we're making it a core part of our go-to-market, and we're going to support it. And maybe we missed a part of this in our onboarding that we should have thought of sooner, but we didn't. And now we're going to handle that, and we're going to adapt our processes, and we're going to push it forward. So I think it's very important to have that buy-in, definitely from your leadership, so they can help drive that and make sure that all the different groups are fully embracing the PIM. Because anytime you bring a product into an ecosystem, a company ecosystem, there's almost always going to be some area you didn't think about that it touches some part of the company that you didn't realize, and that's all. Anything you can do up front, I'd say, to fully vet that out within your company and make sure that you're even talking to people that you don't think is necessarily going to be involved in this process. Make sure that it's at least mentioned to them. Say, oh, actually, we have this small part of it, but it's an important part that you might not. And it could come from finance. It could come from all over the company. So I think that's that's something we learned. We need to make sure that we are getting this out to the entire company, the leadership of every department. Let's make sure that we're covering all of our bases. So when we're doing this sort of thing.
All right, thank you. So Penny, I'm going to turn the mic over to you now for a little bit. So I would like for you to take us back to life at Fossil before Akeneo. And so as a brand that manufactures your own products, I know that you relied heavily on something that you call the product development apparatus. And that's those teams, tools, and processes that were focused on designing and manufacturing products and less on building customer-facing experiences. So what kind of challenges did this present for you?
Hi there. So Fossil has a bunch of different owned brands and licensed brands, and we are a global company. So we're across 140 countries. So that in itself can present challenges as well. So we have all the different product development teams, and those product development teams are by brand, they're by category, and oftentimes they're even by gender. So when we didn't have PIM, what was happening was that all of the different product development teams would be sending spreadsheets to the content team. The content team would then have to take that data, they'd have to massage that data, and then they would have to format it and send it out to the different systems that were required for the data. And it was a nightmare. I mean, we have 4 seasons, we launch 4 seasons a year, and so having to manage the spreadsheet, having to understand, is this the absolute truth? Is this, am I looking at this spreadsheet and I'm not going to give it to anybody else because I don't want my data to change? It was that ownership, because they're very, they want the data and they want it accurately. But them having to just reach out constantly. Product developers, we love our product developers, but we want them developing product. We don't want them chasing data. We don't want to, but we've got to have the data from them, right? So we wanted to try to make things as easy as we could because we suffered from the same thing that Josh did. We had these product developers where we had marketing people reaching out to our product developers. We had planners reaching out to our product developers. We had the downstream systems were reaching out to the product developers, and they were all wanting the same data. And product developer was like, just let me develop product. That's what I want to do, right? So it was a real challenge for us and for the content team. And the other thing that we didn't have that was shame on us at the time, but we didn't have a consistency in our data. So one group of watches may have something different than may call something different than another team that did watches and developed watches. Or our leathers team, the one example I like to give is that, you've got a handbag and one team may call it a slide pocket, another team may call it a pocket, another team may call it something totally different. And at the end of the day, you're going, guys, it's just a pocket. IT person here, so, I'm not flowery. I am kind of flowery today, but generally speaking, it's not that hard. You should be able to standardize your data. And so that's one of the things, too, and I'm kind of going into the future, but that's one of the things that we suffered from because it would go to our websites and, the content team, they were so busy getting the data and chasing the data that they didn't have time to audit the data. And so we just took the data as it was given to us and put it on our downstream systems. And so you had that, it wasn't that good customer experience. It just wasn't there. So that was one of the big things that PIM has brought to us is having us be able to have that consistent data and have it be represented and have a better customer experience.
So now that you have the PIM and your content teams are able to work with the more consistent data, how has their lives changed? Like, how are they able to focus in on other areas now that they have more time? Can you tell us a little bit more about how are they working now that they have Akeneo PIM?
Exactly. So there was a couple of transformations that we made. We have a product lifecycle management system. And we had our product attributes because that's where product developers wanted to be. Again, we were focused on let's design beautiful things, right? Let's not spend time on data. So we put our attributes in our product lifecycle management system. And so the product developers would take their data, put it there, and then from there we would send it downstream to Akeneo. And as part of that integration project, that phase 2 project, we were able to standardize those attributes, we were able to make them sync, and we were able to send data from PLM to our SAP system, which is our ERP, and then also down to the PIM system. So from a product development perspective, that was huge because they were no longer having to send spreadsheets and compile data into spreadsheets. Again, they could focus on product development. And our content team, they love it because now data is automatically created in PIM for them. They're not waiting on product development. They're not chasing product developers for the data. It automatically flows into the system, and the content team can start working automatically on that next season. Start prepping, start getting the data to be able to be enriched. So it kind of helps in that whole flow to market. So it's been a good experience for us.
Well, that's great. It definitely sounds like a better experience for all of your teams. So Josh, I'd like to go back to you and talk a little bit more about your work at Petra. So as a distributor, you're selling in a lot of different places. Could you tell us how Akeneo helps you reach all of your customer touch points?
Sure. So we have multiple channels. We have our B2B is our primary channel, but we also sell as we'll call B2B2C. So when we're selling on these retail sites, we'll also go back to Walmart and Home Depot and some of these, we're really representing the brands we work with. So they're trusting us to represent their brand the way they want to be represented in the market. And so what Akeneo has let us do is really get that best-in-class data from them and the content from them, and let us partner more closely with the brands we work with so that we are able to represent their brands well online and also consistently online. So since we are bringing them to multiple channels, multiple retailers, their brand needs to have that consistent experience across each different retailer that we're supporting for them. And having Akeneo as that central source of truth, our normalized, our good data, helps us to keep that consistent across each channel. And also, when we make updates inside of Akeneo, we still have that one source, and so we can go back and take that one update, send it to each one of the channels we support, and that also is a huge time savings for us. So that central data is key. And then something else that it's really helped us with is the technical side. We have several tools that we have created to help us manage this process of setting up products on different websites. And the technical side of that, the API that comes with Akeneo, we've utilized that really heavily in order to move product data around our systems as well as onto these retailer websites. And that's been a huge win for us to have that one source we can pull from the API. Really, the one source of information is the biggest win for it, be it if it's because the API we're pulling data into our systems, if it's an export for a customer, like just having it all in one spot, it's standardized, one place to fix it, one place to make sure that it is correct. That's really, I think, just one of the biggest wins in order to help us manage selling on each one of these retail sites. And then also on our own website as well, because we also want to represent the product represent the product well on our own website, where so for us, there's kind of a split. Our B2B sales primarily happen on our own website. So if I go back to our history as being a distributor for independent retailers, those customers are actually coming onto our own website, and they're making purchases there. They're deciding what they want to stock in their stores, what they want to restock. Do they want to add a new product line into the mix in their retail storefront? And we're surfacing all that to them on our own website. And so it's really important that they understand the product as well and can, so that they know if they want to bring it into their own store. And so it's helped us to manage that side of it, and at the same time also be B2C essentially, since when we're selling on the other retailer websites, we're basically, even though we're not the brand, like we're not owning the relationship with the customer, we are providing the face of it in that case. So being able to keep those two channels in sync and coming from the same data source has been a real advantage for us.
All right, thank you. So now I want to ask about a topic that is gaining a lot of attention, and that is sustainability. And so first, Josh, I'd like to ask you, we know that consumers today are concerned about sustainability, and they're looking to do business with brands that share their own values. So how is Akeneo helping Petra address these customer expectations?
I mean, for us, since we don't own these brands, we're representing these brands. Really, that comes back down to the attribute levels, so that if there is some specific sustainability information that that the brand we're supporting really pursues, we can keep that information inside of PIM, and we do. Like, and so that when we are setting up products on websites, we have that available to us, and we know that we need to call that out in some way. But really, that for us, it's mostly just that data store and having that available to us, and knowing that that's something that we need to push for that particular brand, since these aren't products we own. We're not going out and creating sustainable products ourselves. We're just working with the brands who are creating those. But having that visible to our teams who are setting up products online is definitely an advantage, because if that is something that's important to the brand, then we want to make sure that we're calling that out and representing that in the market for them.
So Penny, I really want to get your input on this topic, because I know that sustainability has been a hot topic for you at Fossil.
It's a very hot, very confusing, very frustrating topic at Fossil. I would probably say that, I mean, everybody's excited about being able to get the story out there to tell what sustainability means for you. We have licensed brands, so we have challenges around sustainability because they don't want Fossil to represent our values of sustainability. They want their values represented. And so it has created a lot of conversation. And I would say probably one of the best things that Akenio has done for us is we set up sustainability attributes inside of Akenio, and the way that we defined them becomes that one source for the company. So, and that's huge. We had to work with our legal teams to be able to make sure that we were properly representing sustainability to meet all legal requirements that we had to, not only for the U.S., but also for our global partners. So that, because there's different requirements by country for sustainability. In this way, there is no guessing. Oh, what is sustainability to watches? What is sustainability to jewelry? What is sustainability to our leathers team? We have leather straps, okay? Are they the same sustainability values as a leather handbag? The leather team may want to call them something different than the watch team, but legally, they may have to be the same thing. And so with Akenio, we're able to put all of that data in one place. There is no guessing now. You don't have to know. You don't have to go to the product developer and get a one answer, oh, this is sustainability for me. Well, no, the way that you represent it on the websites is according to what is in Akenio. And that's been a big game changer for us because it is, as I said, a very confusing, very frustrating topic because it's changing all the time depending upon what products you're developing, what new materials you're using. I mean, it's constantly ebbing and flowing. So that was a big deal for us. And the other thing, too, that I would say is that because we also are connected to Salesforce, we're able to use some of those sustainability attributes to allow us to display what Fossil means for sustainability or what's important for Fossil when it comes to sustainability. So additional functionality, and I think that helps us get our story out there. So that's important.
Yes, I can see where the PIM would make that much easier to keep track of that information. And you mentioned, different requirements for sustainability in different countries. And so you're working with 13 different languages. Can you tell us how you handled translations before Akenio and then how you're doing it now that you have Akenio PIM?
Absolutely. You go back to the 25 brands, the different product categories, every season, all of that data, that was going into a spreadsheet that was then by brand, by product category, that was going to translations.com. We were manually inputting the data into their system, and we would submit the spreadsheet, they would go translate it, they would bring it back to us, that we'd have to take the data from the spreadsheet and upload it into the systems that needed to be. And that was not only by brand, by product category, but by individual language requirements. So it was very painful, absolutely. I'll go ahead and keep on. You want me to? Yeah, sure. So right now, we partnered with translations.com, and we were able to build a connector. And so we have a connector inside of Akenio, and that allows us to send the product data in a group, in a bundle, all of one season worth of data by the individual locales that we want to have translated, and we can push, with a push of a button. Sounds too simple, too good to be true, but it really is. Within a push of a button and a selection of a couple of attributes, all of that data automatically flows over to them, They process the data, they send it back to us, it updates the products, and it's seamless. It's beautiful. Content team, they're very happy. Very happy.
So that's a great example of a new way to work. It sounds very smooth. So Josh, I have another question for you. So you went through an e-commerce replatforming project with Akenio. Can you tell us how having Akenio in place made that project easier?
Sure. Whenever you're replatforming, in e-commerce, it's always going to be a very tricky, difficult project to handle. But what having Kineo in place really helped us with there was we already had our product categorization, we had all of our product data in one place. So that wasn't something we really needed to recreate. We only needed a connector into our new platform. And while it's not quite as easy as this, but essentially what we did was point that connector at our new platform, allow it to ingest all of our product information, and we were like 95% of the way there at that point because it brought over our categorization, it brought over all of our products, it brought over our images, it just recreated everything we had before, and it was just something we didn't have to, the only thing we really had to worry about was the connector itself and customizing a little bit and making sure that the connector did what we wanted it to do. But outside of that, since Akenio, go back to being a first-class citizen, like Akenio, and within our ecosystem, it owns the categorization, it owns the product attributes and the families, all that information. And so since it is the central truth, the owner of that information, we really just had to point it at our next platform, ingest all that information, and then it came across. So it was a huge benefit. It really saved us a whole lot of time in that process. And yeah, the connector itself was the only thing we really had to worry about and make sure that that was performing the way we want to perform. But we didn't have to worry about the data itself or how it was going to look on the web, or were we going to miss something, or was a category not going to be right, anything. That just all came across through through the connector and out of Akenio.
That's fantastic, because when you say re-platforming project, that sounds like it's going to be a very hairy and painful experience, but it sounds like with the connector, you were able to make it very easy.
Still a very hairy, difficult experience, but at least we didn't have to worry about that particular portion of it.
All right. So Penny, back to you. You sell to large wholesalers who have their own individual data requirements. How does Akenio help you address all of those requirements?
Well, right now, it's all about spreadsheets. We do have specialized tools that we've bought, customized tools that we've developed that will take the data from PIM, because we were really adamant that the source of data is PIM and nowhere else. And so the wholesale tools are able to, via APIs, pick up that data, and they can go in and select the SKUs that they want by their country. And then that tool also will allow you to do, like, format it in the needs of our wholesale partners. And so we just upgraded to Akenio 6 last week. Woohoo! Project done. Yay! And it was very successful, so that was good. And now we're going to be going to the tailored exports. And we're looking really forward to being able to do that, because we want to get rid of all these additional tools and have a standard set of tools. And this, with the tailored exports, that will give us the ability to sunset the other tool, and that's good because somebody that built the tool, they left the company. So we got to get rid of it, and we don't want to have our data going to all these different places. And so partnering with Akenio to get that built was a huge deal for us, and I appreciate you guys taking on that challenge.
Well, stick around, because after this session, we're going to do a demo of tailored import and tailored export. So I think that'll be of particular interest to you. Yes. So Josh, kind of a similar question for you. You get a lot of information from suppliers, and that can be a big hassle. So what are some of the challenges that you've experienced trying to get that data from suppliers, and how has Akenio helped resolve those issues?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest challenges we have around that is simply consistency. Since we are working with so many different brands, they will, they're all going to have their own nomenclature, their own way of talking about things, their own way of describing their products. And what we found was we really wanted to centralize that within PIM and normalize it, standardize it so that if we just take the basic color example, we ended up splitting that into two attributes within our PIM. And so oftentimes a brand will give us, I don't know, midnight blue, or they'll give us, their marketing blue. So we have an attribute inside of Akinio, we call it our marketing color, and we take the attribute they give, the value they give us, we put into that attribute. But then after that, our enrichment team will look at that and say, okay, well, this is midnight blue, but really it's blue. So we have our our standardized color attribute, then we will just go and set that to blue. And so we do that across any really common attributes that we know all of our retailers are going to be looking for, so that we do have a standardized format that we can deliver to the different channels, but we also still have the brand's representation of what that is. So when we are setting up online, we can, in most cases, we're able to give the primary color to a retailer, but also give them the marketing color so that they can show the color in the way that that the retailer or that the brand wanted. Or not, if they're not able to do that, then maybe we can put that color into the product title, do something like that, so that the product is still being represented in the market in the way that the brand wants, but it's standardized in our system in a way that makes it really easy for us to communicate that out and to our retail network. And that's been a really big benefit to us. And other than that, I keep going back to centralization, but that's really what has helped us there as well. So all of the data that our suppliers give us, it gets uploaded into Akinio. We're able to see commonalities between what's being provided to us. We're able to enrich it there, and that's been a huge benefit. And it's really let us kind of optimize our onboarding process with vendors as well, and make sure that whenever we come up with, or we come across something new in the market that we really feel like a vendor should be supporting, if that's a 360 spin or videos, something like that, we can reach out to the vendor, put that inside of PIM, and then we have that available to us in order to supply to our retailers.
All right, thank you. So it seems like both of you have learned a lot as you've adapted to new ways to work with Akinio PIM. You've shared some great examples here today, and we have a few minutes left, so I just want to open it up to ask if you have any advice for someone who is approaching a PIM solution. Josh, we'll start with you. What advice would you share?
Well, definitely do your research up front, and really, I think, invest into your product taxonomy and understand how your product is going to be represented in the market, and then make sure that your data model within PIM is representing that, and then just be open to change, be fluid. It's probably not going to go exactly the way you thought. Be able to adapt to that, and for us, if we just talk about new ways to work, it's we did completely change our processes to revolve around PIM, but that's an ongoing thing. It's something that we constantly evaluate, and we try to figure out, are we still doing this the right way? Do we still have the right people in the right spots? Do we still have all the right processes? And we make changes pretty consistently. This year we recognized we had a bit of a disconnect in how we were going to market on retail sites. Our actual teams that were responsible for creating the listings on the retail sites lived in a different department than our teams that were doing all the enrichment. And there was a ton of communication back and forth between these teams. We realized it doesn't really make sense to have them separated. So this year we brought that team into our marketing department to live alongside our enrichment teams, and that's created a huge amount of efficiency. So we're always looking for those kind of things, like how can we change what we're doing, because we always know that we can be better, that we could be doing things more efficiently, that we could be just doing a better job of representing our brands. That's, at the end of the day, that's what's most important to us, that the brands we're working with are well represented in the market, that their products are, look great, that they're being sold, that we are getting them in front of the customers that they want to be in front of, and that the pages that we're setting up for them are converting, and they're seeing sales growth. And you can't be stagnant. You always have to be looking at not just from the people process, but what are the latest trends in the market? Like, is there something new that you need to do to represent products online? And just constantly being evaluated, always be open to change, and that I think would probably be is my biggest advice. But
Go ahead and give my advice too. So we didn't have a system integrator, and my history and background was product lifecycle management and product data systems, and so the company felt like my team should be the one that should take on the PIM, and none of our team had experience with the PIM, so I probably would say for us, hindsight, I probably would have had a system integrator or your professional services come in and help with that. We managed. Did we get it right? No. Is that okay? Yeah, because it's a walk, run kind of process, right? And don't try to take on too much at one time. Just get your data up there, understand what your data is, understand who wants your data. One of our problems, and I can say this, I was on the IT department side, not the business side at that point in time. We looked at it purely from an e-commerce perspective. I worked with the product development team in the PLM system. I knew where the attributes came from and where the product data lived. So as the e-com team was kind of focusing strictly on getting the data that they wanted from a selling perspective, I'm like, no, there's a bigger need. The company needs this data. And so luckily we were able to bring all that product data in for the company, right? Instead of just having an e-com focus. But did we bring in the marketing team and the stakeholders from the marketing team? No, we didn't. Should we? Yeah. Why? Because we were having to change a lot of attribute definitions, right? So know your stakeholders. I don't care who is the business team, the business lead that's bringing that project in. Ask them, if you're a part of that implementation, ask them, are you sure we've got the right team? In the future, what do we want to do with this tool? Do we want, the customer care unit? Do we want our internal customers? Do we want our external customers to be able to access this data? That's hugely important. And then just have fun with it. That's the other thing. I mean, as you can tell, I'm a geek, IT, passionate about data, passionate about systems. So it's fun. And the evolution that we're seeing that Akenio go through is fun. It's exciting. So have fun with it.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. Have fun with it. So thank you, both of you, for sharing your stories. I think we've all walked away with some great examples of new ways to work. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody. Please stay tuned. We're going to go right into our next session, Akenio in Action. So let's give another hand of applause for our great panelists.